that there are better ways of crossing the Atlantic.
So I mean, to do all this, you must have been a genius from the get-go, right? I mean,
I won't contradict that, but especially.
Okay, this isn't exactly hardball. Okay.
They
weren't you just terrible at school?
I was dyslexic. I had no understanding of schoolwork whatsoever. I certainly would have failed IQ tests. And it's one of the reasons I left school when I was 15 years old. And if I'm not interested in something, I don't grasp it. As somebody who's dyslexic, you also have some quite bizarre situations. I mean, for instance, I've had to, I've been running the largest group of private companies in Europe, but haven't been able to know the difference between net and gross. And so the board meetings have been fascinating. And so, is that good news or bad news? And generally people would say, oh, well, that's bad news. But
just to clarify, the $25 billion is gross, right? That's gross.
Well, I hope it's net, actually, having finally... I've got it right.
No, trust me, it's gross.
No, so when I turned 50, somebody took me outside the boardroom and said, "Look, Richard, here's let me draw on a diagram. Here's a net in the sea, and the fish have been pulled from the sea into this net, and that's the profits you've got left over in this little net, and everything else is I finally worked it all out." So.
But I mean, at school, so as well as being, doing pretty miserably academically, but you were also like the captain of the cricket and football team. So you were kind of you're a natural leader, but just a bit of were you a rebel then, or how would you?
Yeah, I think I was a bit of a maverick, but I was fortunately good at sport, and so that at least I had something to excel at school.
And some bizarre things happened just earlier in your life. I mean, there's the story about your mother allegedly dumping you in a field aged 4 and saying, "Okay, walk home." And did this really happen?
I mean, she was, she felt that we needed to stand on our own 2 feet from an early age. So she did things to us which now she'd be arrested for. Such as pushing us out of the car and telling us to find our own way to Granny's about 5 miles before we actually got there, and making us go on wonderful long bike rides, and we're never allowed to watch television.
But is there a risk here? I mean, there's a lot of people in the room who are wealthy, and they've got kids, and we've got this dilemma about how you bring them up. I mean, do you look at the current generation of kids coming up and thinking they're too coddled, they don't know what they've got, we're going to raise a generation of privileged?
No, I think if you're bringing up kids, you just want to smother them with love and praise and enthusiasm and. So I don't think you can mollycoddle your kids too much, really.
You didn't turn out too bad, I have to say. Your headmaster said to you, I mean, he found you kind of an enigma at your school. He said, "You're either going to be a millionaire or go to prison, and I'm not sure which." Which of those happened first?
Well, I've done both. I think I went to prison first. I was actually prosecuted under 2 quite ancient acts in the UK. I was prosecuted under the 1889 Venereal Diseases Act and the 1916 Indecent Advertisement Act. On the first occasion for mentioning the word venereal disease in public, which we had a centre where we would help young people who had problems, and one of the problems young people have is venereal disease. And there's an ancient law that says you can't actually mention the word venereal disease or print it in public. So the police knocked on the door and told us they were going to arrest us if we carried on mentioning the word venereal disease. We changed it to social diseases, and people came along with acne and spots, but nobody came with VD anymore. So we put it back to VD and promptly got arrested. And then subsequently, never mind the Bollocks, here's the Sex Pistols, the word Bollocks. The police decided was a rude word, and so we were arrested for using the word Bollocks on the Sex Pistols album. And John Mortimer, the playwright, defended us. And he asked if I could find a linguistics expert to come up with a different definition of the word bollocks. And so I rang up Nottingham University, asked to talk to the professor of linguistics, and he said that bollocks is is nothing to do with bulls whatsoever. It's actually a nickname given to priests in the 18th century. And he went furthermore, I'm a priest myself, and so I said, well, would you mind coming to the court? And he said he'd be delighted. And I said, he said, would you like me to wear my dog collar? And I said, yes, definitely, please. That's great. So our key witness was argued that it was actually, never mind the priest, he has the Sex Pistols, and the judge reluctantly found us not guilty. So.
That is outrageous. So here, seriously, is there a dark side? I mean, a lot of people would say there's no way that someone could put together this incredible collection of businesses without knifing a few people in the back, doing some ugly things. You've been accused of being ruthless. There was a nasty biography written about you by someone. Is any of it true? Is there an element of truth in it?
I don't actually think that the stereotype of a business person treading all over people to get to the top, generally speaking, works. I think if you treat people well, people will come back and come back for more. And I think all you have in life is your reputation, and it's a very small world. And I actually think that the best way of becoming a successful business leader is dealing with people fairly and well, and like to think that's how we run Virgin.
And what about the people who love you and who see you keep getting caught up in these new projects? I mean, it almost feels like you're addicted to launching new stuff. You get excited by an idea and kapow. I mean, do you think about life balance? How do your family feel about each time you step into something big and new?
I also believe that being a father is incredibly important. So, from the time the kids were very young, when they go on holiday, I go on holiday with them, and so we spend a very good sort of 3 months away together. Yes, I'll be in touch. We're very lucky. We have this tiny little island in the Caribbean, and so I can take them there, and we can bring friends, and we can play together. But I can also keep in touch with what's going on.
You started talking in recent years about this term capitalist philanthropy. What is that?
Capitalism has been proven to be a system that works. The alternative, communism, has not worked. But the problem with capitalism is extreme wealth ends up in the hands of a few people, and therefore extreme responsibility, I think, goes with that wealth. And I think it's important that the individuals who are in that fortunate position do not end up competing for bigger and bigger boats and bigger cars, but you use that money to either create new jobs or to tackle issues around the world.
And what are the issues that you worry about most, care most about, want to turn your resources toward?
Well, there's a lot of issues. Global warming certainly is a massive threat to mankind, and we are putting a lot of time and energy into trying to come up with alternative fuels, and B, we just launched this prize, which is which is really a prize in case we don't get an answer in alternative fuels, in case we don't actually manage to get the carbon emissions cut down quickly, and in case we go through the tipping point. We need to try to encourage people to come up with a way of extracting carbon out of the Earth's atmosphere, and we just there weren't really people working on that before, so we wanted people to try to all the best brains in the world to start thinking about that, and also to try to extract the methane out of the Earth's atmosphere as well. And actually, we've had about 15,000 people fill in the forms saying they want to give it a go, and so we only need one, so we're hopeful.
And you're also working in Africa on a couple of projects?
Yes, I mean we've got we're setting up something called the War Room, which is maybe the wrong word. We're trying to, maybe it would change it, but anyway, it's a war room to try to coordinate all the attack that's going on in Africa, all the different social problems in Africa, and try to look at best practices. So. For instance, there's a doctor in Africa that's found that if you give a mother antiretroviral drugs at 24 weeks when she's pregnant, that the baby will not have HIV when it's born, and so disseminating that information to around the rest of Africa is important.
And the War Room sounds powerful and dramatic. And is there a risk that the business heroes of the West get so excited about? I mean, they're used to having an idea, getting stuff done, and they believe profoundly in their ability to make a difference in the world. Is there a risk that we go to places like Africa and say, we've got to fix this problem, we can do it, I've got all these billions of dollars, here's the big idea, and kind of take a much more complex situation and actually end up making a mess of it? Do you worry about that?
Well, first of all, I mean, on this particular situation, we're actually, we're working with the government on it. I mean, Thabo Mbeki's had his problems with accepting HIV and AIDS are related, but this is a way, I think, of him tackling this problem. And instead of the world criticizing him, it's a way of working with him, with his government. It's important that if people do go to Africa and do try to help, they don't just go in there and then leave after a few years. It's got to be consistent. But I think business leaders can bring their entrepreneurial know-how and help governments approach things slightly differently. I mean, for instance, we're setting up clinics in Africa. Where we're going to be giving free antiretroviral drugs, free TB treatment, and free malaria treatment. But we're also trying to make them self-sustaining clinics so that people pay for some other aspects.
I mean, a lot of cynics say about someone like yourself or Bill Gates or whatever that this is really it's almost driven by some sort of desire again, for the right image, for guilt avoidance, and not like a real philanthropic instinct. I mean, what would you say to them?
Well, I think that people do things for a whole variety of different reasons, and I think that when I'm on my deathbed, I will want to feel that that I've made a difference to other people's lives, and that may be a selfish thing to think, but it's the way I've been brought up. I think if I'm in a position to radically change other people's lives for the better, I should do so.
How old are you?
I'm 56.
I mean, the psychologist Erik Erikson says that, as I understand it, I'm a total amateur, but that during 30s, 40s, people are driven by this desire to grow, and that's where they get their fulfillment. 50s, 60s, that the mode of operation shifts more to the quest for wisdom and a search for legacy. I mean, it seems like you're still a little bit in the growth phase. You're still doing these incredible new plans. How much do you think about legacy, and what would you like your legacy to be?
I don't think I think too much about legacy. I mean, I'd like to, my grandmother lived to 101, so hopefully I've got another 30 or 40 years to go. No, I just want to, live life to its full. If I can make a difference, I hope to be able to make a difference. And I think one of the positive things at the moment is, you've got Sergey and Larry from Google, for instance, who are good friends, and thank God you've got two people who genuinely care about the world, and with that kind of wealth. If they had that kind of wealth and they didn't care about the world, it'd be very worrying, and they're going to make a hell of a difference to the world. And I think it's important that people in that kind of position do make a difference.
Well, Richard, when I was starting up in business, I knew nothing about it, and I also was I thought that business people were supposed to just be ruthless, and that was the only way you could have a chance of succeeding. And you actually did inspire me. I looked at you, I thought, well, he's made it, maybe there is a different way. So I'd like to thank you for that inspiration and for coming to TED today. Thank you so much. Great. Thank you. That's fantastic. Well, look at that. Thank you.